Hi, Todd Dunn here on October 21st, 2018. Today I'm aboard my 1972 36-foot Allied Princess Ketch, and I'm starting to do the winterization of systems in preparation for haul out on Tuesday, October 23rd. So today I'm going to winterize the water system, the washdown pump, and the head, and I'm also going to do an oil change. So the first thing I'm going to do is fire up the engine to let it warm up a little bit so that the oil will drain out a little more quickly. I'll be talking a little bit about the details of the oil change on this particular boat once we get started on that. While the engine is warming up, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to winterize the washdown pump. So, time to get going. Okay, sorry about the noise, that's the engine running. Washdown pump is plumbed into the sink drain down here. So I've got the sink drain seacock closed. I'm just going to disconnect the hose that goes from the washdown pump and stick it in a gallon of antifreeze. And then I will go up and open the faucet on deck, turn the pump on, and let the antifreeze run through. And I can conveniently look out that port right there and see when antifreeze is running down the side of the deck, at which point I'll turn it off. It's pretty straightforward, it only takes a couple minutes. Test. Okay, now I'm set to do the engine oil change. I've let the engine run for about 25 minutes to warm the oil up so it'll flow out a little more quickly. So I'm going to open up the access to the engine, start getting it ready to go. Okay, there's the engine. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's a Westerbeek 46. And just a second, I'll move the camera and explain what I'm going to do. This engine has a hose plumbed into the drain plug for the oil pan. And so what we do is just take the fitting off the end of that hose and stick it into a plastic jug and let the oil run out. It usually takes about 20 minutes for the oil to run out. So once most of the oil is run out, I'll change the filter. Then when the oil is out, I will put new oil in and we'll be done. So it's a relatively quick procedure. Given the tight space here, I'm not going to actually film doing this because you wouldn't be able to see anything because I would be in the way. Okay, that's draining into an oil jug there. It's an empty one from last year. And I just have to keep an eye on that because I'm going to drain about 5.5 quarts out, and that's a 4-quart jug. So I have 2 of them. So we'll just let it drain. As I said, it's going to take about 20 minutes because that's a hydraulic hose and it's a very small inside diameter. So, the next step is to start working on the water system while this is going on. Since I just ran the engine, the water in the water tank heater is probably fairly warm since the heat exchanger from the engine is in there. So rather than deal with really hot water, I am going to run some water through the hot side of the system to hopefully get the water temperature in the tank down to a reasonable level. So that's pretty simple. I just turn the water pressure on and open a tap. Okay, water pump is on and I'm running hot water through, and it's not that hot, so I don't need to run much this way. I do have to drain the water tank, but this would take a long time. This pumps at about 3 gallons a minute, so rather than do that, I'm going to drain it out of the tank directly. The water tank is under this settee, so this hose here goes from the water tank to the pump. So to drain the water tank, all I have to do is open that valve there, and the water will run out of the tank. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's see if I can do that. Alright, I'm just going to let that water drain into the bilge, and when that's finished we'll pump it over the side. And then I will disconnect this hose from the valve and put it into a jug of non-toxic antifreeze to pump that through the system. But before I do that, I'm also going to go into the cockpit locker. I'm going to drain the water out of the water heater tank, which is why I was running a little hot water, so that when I do that I don't get really scalding hot water on me as I drain the water out. Okay, so this will take a few minutes to drain out, but it's a lot easier than letting the pump run. Now, while the water is draining out down there, I'm going to change the oil filter. It is on the starboard side of the engine, and you can't really see it, but it's in there, and I'm going to have to, it's just below the alternator, so I just have to get my filter wrench on there and back that oil filter off. I'll put some oil absorbent cloths underneath it because it's a horizontal filter and it will leak oil out. So I want to make sure I get that right. Again, I'm not going to shoot video of this because I have to go in this opening. That's the only place you can see what I'll be doing from, and consequently won't be able to get a picture of what's going on with me in there. Okay, my oil filter is off. I've drained the oil that was still in it into a jug, and here's the new filter to put on. So what I'll do is wet the gasket with a little fresh oil and then clean up the spot that it goes and screw it on hand tight. And that's all there is to that. And I stopped draining oil for a little bit. Still have about 2 quarts to go because my jug was full, and I wanted to use this one to drain the filter, so I had to stop for a little bit. As soon as I get the new filter on, I'll drain more oil, the rest of the oil, into there. Then I can fill the engine up with new oil. And I'm using Shell Rotella T4 15W40 diesel rated oil. That is sort of the most popular oil around here. I'm not doing it as a plug for Shell, just that's what I use. Okay, now I'm going to go above deck and then down into the cockpit locker, where I'm going to drain the water heater tank, which is a 6-gallon tank. That'll go into the bilge. And I'm also going to disconnect the inlet and outlet hoses and splice them together to take the water heater out of the system so that I don't have any of my non-potable antifreeze going into the water heater. Partly to save on antifreeze, because it would take 6 gallons to fill it, but mostly because I found when I did that in years past that it took forever to flush all the antifreeze out of the hot water side of the water system. So now I only put it in the hoses and I leave the water heater itself empty over the winter. Okay, I'm down in the cockpit locker now. It's pretty tight down here. This is the inlet right here, down here, from the water pump to the water heater, and this is the outlet right here. So what I'm going to do is disconnect the outlet and the inlet, tie them together, and then drain all the water out of the water heater. So that's where I'm going to go. I can't hold my camera and do this at the same time, so you're not going to be able to see the actual disconnect, etc. But I'll show you the result. Okay, I've now disconnected the water heater, top and bottom, and used this hose to go from the inlet to the outlet connections so that the water heater is now out of the circuit. And while I was down here, I pulled the radar cable through. It goes up the mizzen mast, so it's now pulled through, and I can pull it up when we take the mizzen mast off the boat on Tuesday. Okay, at this point, now that I've gone up and spent a few minutes draining and bypassing the water heater, I'm ready to winterize the water system, but before I do that, I'm going to fill the engine back up with oil. Which means I have to cap that drain tube, which I'm sure has now drained all the oil out, and then just put new oil in. Once that's done, I'll run the engine briefly to circulate the oil. I'll check to make sure it's full and top it up if I need to, and then the oil change will be finished. So I'm going to get that oil system finished and put fresh oil in. Okay, I've got about 5 quarts in there, so before I do anything else, I'm going to check the oil with the dipstick and see just how much I'm reading. Unfortunately, the dipstick is on the starboard side. It's another one of these things you can see or touch, but not both. But I do know where it is, and it's pretty easy to, once I find it here, to get a hold of. Come on, there. There it is. Now we'll put it back in and see how much oil we have. And right now we're reading full, so I'm going to reserve that other half quart until I've test run the engine in a few minutes after I finish the water system. So we'll put this dipstick back in. And do a little cleanup, and then we'll do the actual winterization of the water system. Okay, now I'm ready to winterize the water system. Procedure's pretty simple. I'm going to put the pickup hose for the water pump into a jug of non-toxic antifreeze, and I'm using propylene glycol antifreeze simply because I find that the alcohol-based antifreeze doesn't work as well and creates some issues in terms of taste. It also damages rubber gaskets. So that's in there, and at this point I'm going to make sure my hot tap is open, and I'll turn the water pump on, and we'll run it until pink antifreeze comes out. So I'll reach over here and flip the switch for the water pump right there. And here we go. As soon as I get pink out, I'm going to shut off the hot side and switch to cold. This is just the water that was left over in the hoses. There we go. Switch to cold now. And it will, there we go. So this faucet is winterized. Now I'm going to winterize the head sink, and so I'll open the hot and turn the cold off, and we will go turn the water pump on. And there we go. A longer hose run here, so this will take a little longer as we wait for the pink antifreeze to come through the hot side. And it shouldn't take too long though. And then we'll switch over. There we go. Open the cold and wait for it to come through. And it shouldn't take too long. Again, it's a fairly long hose run. Oops, looks like I've run out of antifreeze before it got here, so I have to go open another jug. And there we go. Starting to run pink. It's going to take a little while before it draws up. Had some air in the line. There we go. So, at this point we're finished. So all my plumbing is finished, except the head. My head on this boat has its intake attached to the sink drain. So I have just gone down and closed the seat cock so that anything I put in this sink now is going to go through the head. So I'm going to pump antifreeze through the head from the sink drain here. And just pour some in there. And we'll pump it through the head into the holding tank. Here's the head. It's a Wilcox Crittenden Skipper 2 solid bronze head. So we'll turn it to intake. And you can see pink is coming through. Alright, I pumped it all through. Now I'm just going to pump it out. And with that, the head is winterized. Okay, that's all finished. Took 3 gallons of propylene glycol non-toxic antifreeze to do the water system, the washdown pump, and the head. And that leaves me 4 gallons, because I had 7, to do the engine cooling system, which I will do once the boat is hauled out for the season. So what I have left to do now is test run the engine for a few minutes to circulate the oil, fill the oil filter, etc. And shut it down, check the oil, and top it up if necessary. But other than that, I am done. And this entire project has taken me about an hour and a half. And that's longer than usual because I was making this video. Okay, time to climb up on deck and fire up the engine for a few minutes. Okay, I'm all done. It's really windy outside. That's why I look so windblown whenever I've gone on deck. And oil's changed, took 5.5 quarts. Water system and washdown pump are winterized. Head is winterized. The boat is ready to come out of the water on Tuesday. Oh, okay, the oil is changed, 5.5 quarts plus a filter. Winterize the water system, the washdown pump, and the head. Took 3 gallons of propylene glycol antifreeze. And I also pulled the radar cable through so that we can lift the mast off and pull the radar cable out without any issues, I hope. Sometimes it hangs up and I have to go into the cockpit locker to clear it when we're lifting the mast off, but I emptied the cockpit locker, so that shouldn't take very long if I have to do it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope it was informative.